This is the students of S.H.I.E.L.D. coming to you from Penn State for our first podcast of 2015. So I guess without further ado, let's go around and introduce ourselves. So Yoonhyuk, do you want to start?
All right. My name's Yoonhyuk K. I'm a junior here at Penn State. My major is journalism.
I'm Vincent Faust, and I'm a sophomore. I'm Vincent Faust, I'm a sophomore, and this is not our first podcast of 2015.
Okay, second. Okay, you want to get technical? It's our second
It's our
podcast.
third podcast.
Third. Okay, third.
All right. I'm Matt.
I'm Dan.
I'm Luke, aka Street Flyer. I'm Bill. I'm Neel.
And I'm Cassie L.
All right. So, if, I think this might be coming out a little bit after the announcements today, but Marvel just announced today that they're making. They announced a sequel to Ant-Man, which we'll get to probably in another podcast. But for today, Marvel also announced that they're coming out with 3 unnamed movies in 2020. And this is basically, we're assuming that this is going to be Phase 4, unless Phase 3 is going to extend out to, 14 films, they say? Which will be absolutely ridiculous, because that would be really long. So, my question to you guys today is, what 3 movies do you want to see, fill those slots? There's a lot of change that's going to be coming after Inhumans with the end of the Infinity War. So this is kind of a tricky question. I mean, where does Marvel go from here? So I think it's a really interesting question. I think everyone can kind of pitch in. So Cassie, do you want to start?
No, we're not starting with Cassie.
No? Okay.
No.
I can start. I can start. I will start.
Okay.
Okay. So, Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man movie, coming out in 2017. So I think it makes sense if the sequel, if one of these 3 movies is the sequel to that Spider-Man movie. Second, I would like to see Spider-Woman, Jessica Drew. My idea is like a Mission Impossible style thriller. And also, as a follow-up to Inhumans, I think a good choice would be Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel.
Go ahead. All right. I have only one sequel on my list because I feel like sequels are kind of inevitable for this. My first one what I want is an MI13 film, The British Superheroes. I feel like that'd be a really good place to go with casting all these British actors. Yeah, I'd also want a Kamala Khan Miss Marvel. That's a good way to start with you. And my last one would probably be Runaways. Because I know, among us, we discuss Young Avengers, but I feel like that's more or less another high school drama, if you will. So I feel like by actually making these kids know them as having to travel everywhere, I feel like that'd be a better idea to tackle. Yeah.
All right, I'll go now. I really think Kamala Khan works perfectly coming off of Inhumans. And if they did the Spider-Man sequel as well, then I could see maybe the third Spider-Man movie or the second Kamala Khan, whatever. I can see a crossover between those two because they'll be 2 teenagers, and they've met up once, twice in the comics, and it's been fun. Have two teenage superheroes hanging out. We've seen enough of adult superheroes hanging out. As far as sequels, the timing would kind of work where Cap 4 would be up next, and like you said, Spider-Man 2, the timing works, and I think it's, for some of them, it has been a 3-year turnaround. So Spider-Man 1 is 2017, 2020, and I think from Cap 1 to Winter Soldier might have been that. Iron Man 2 to 3, a lot of them they're either 3 or 4 years. So Cap 4 could be up. Who has any idea what's up with Downey Jr.'s contract and if there will ever be an Iron Man 4? I would love solo movies for Black Widow or Hawkeye. Black Widow, they could do basically what you said with Jessica Drew, would probably be a spy thriller thing. And then Hawkeye, I think it'd be cool to just make it totally low key and just him running around, bits of the movie with him with his family.
The Russell Crowe.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen that, but yeah, it would be low key Hawkeye, and then I have no idea what they're doing with Hulk because we don't know if he's he's gonna crash into Civil War at the end. We don't know if he's gonna crash into Infinity War in part 1 or in part 2. But if he somehow doesn't, or if they somehow figure out another reason to send him off into space, I still would love a Planet Hope movie just because it's so ridiculous.
So which 3, like of all those that you've just said, which 3 would you like absolutely need to have?
Alright, Kamala Khan, Black Widow, and Planet Hope. Those are my picks.
We'll definitely bring up the other ones though later on. Do you wanna take your piece?
I think like first out of the 3, definitely not to say the sequel to Spider-Man. I would definitely say it happened, whether or not this reboot is good or not. Considering it's gonna be Civil War, it's gonna be already involved with all the other characters from the cinematic universe, so it's kind of inevitable for them to keep it going because they're still gonna earn a lot of money from Spider-Man. The second movie, either Doctor Strange 2 or Ghost Rider. Like, I couldn't see Ghost Rider as a Netflix series because there'd be too much CGI involved.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
I mean, yes, but if you look at something like The Flash or the War Story, it's kind of true. I think like their idea for Netflix series is to keep it really grounded, like how Daredevil so far.
Physically.
Ghost Rider's dark.
Yeah.
But I guess what he means is that keep it realistic enough like a supernatural twist.
Like Iron Fist?
Right. I don't know.
That is true. They're about to enter supernatural territory with Iron Fist. But I could see like a connection being formed between Ghost Rider and Doctor Strange because they have similar foes. Like
Dormammu.
Yeah, Dormammu, Mephisto.
Yeah. Fisto.
So either or, if one comes before the other, there could be like a post-credit scene leading into the other one.
Yeah.
Which would be pretty cool.
Bill, what do you think?
First of all, I agree with Spider-Man 2.
Can you speak up a bit?
Yeah, the new Spider-Man 2, I think, would be an interesting thing to watch. I'm a big fan of Spider-Man. And they even might want to read to Fantastic Four.
Hopefully they get the rights back.
That's the big issue.
But I want to see a cool version, a nice version of it.
They're Marvel's first family. They should get a good film.
And maybe redo Daredevil short film.
So like him making a jump to the big screen.
Yeah, like instead of all the dragginess in the series, just combine with the action packed stuff into one film.
Because eventually he's gonna make his jump to Infinity War.
Instead of all the, instead of all the what? The dragonness? So does that mean?
Dragginess. Like,
Oh, he's
I watched
saying-
a couple episodes.
Yeah.
It was kind of draggy.
It was flat. Okay, sure.
On that note, yeah, the Netflix hero, Charlie Cox, who plays Daredevil, said in his contract, every Netflix hero has a contract. In their contract says they have to appear in at least one film if like the director says so.
I don't think that's what it said.
Really?
No.
Well, I think he might have just said that his contract is vague and like if they want him in a movie, then they'll.
And he will be. It's not. There's no guarantee they're coming to a movie.
I'll just put it like this: we all hope that we can see Daredevil in a live action movie.
But I think, but do we?
I think post Infinity War, I think it'd be cool to see like a down to earth like Daredevil dealing with everything that just happened. I feel
But
like that's the way they have to go with
Kevin,
this.
and Kevin Feige did say the movies are also going to reference the shows now instead of just the other way around.
Yeah.
I just think emphasis on down to earth because
Right.
I don't want Daredevil in the next cosmic capstone.
Well, yeah, like, I don't see how he's fitting in that, but like
Yeah.
just to see his like be able to see him like on the big screen.
Yeah.
Just have him walk in, like, make some popcorn in the microwave, and then walk back out of the room.
Yeah, and one of the party scenes are gonna get so
Yeah.
much cooler.
Yeah,
Because then not
exactly.
everyone. Like, how do they dress? Do they actually dress up, or do they just wear their suits?
I think it depends.
And we have to wear the suit, definitely.
Yeah,
But,
Daredevil as a lawyer would have to wear a suit no matter.
True.
I just want to, sorry, real quick.
Yeah.
I just want to team up between Daredevil and Spider-Man. I don't care if it's on Netflix or a movie. That's what I want.
Needs to happen.
It has to happen.
No, actually no. But when you asked about whether or not they're gonna wear their uniforms, that That is actually a really good point because Daredevil,
Is
so
the
far, I think is the only one who has a secret identity.
Yeah,
We
because
fact check
everyone else
that?
kind of really knows.
Well, I think no.
One
Well, I mean,
character that
we don't need.
has a identity.
I think that's true. I mean, who
Yeah.
else? All the Avengers, everyone knows who
Well,
they are.
obviously.
Yeah.
They
Uh,
have secret
Jessica
code.
Jones has a public identity because she doesn't go by Jewel.
What about Scott Lang?
Yeah.
Well, you're getting too far.
unless,
You're getting too deep.
I mean, unless Darren Cross made his information public, no one really knows who
They
that
have
is.
historical stuff when he blew up.
Oh,
When he
yeah.
absorbed him.
Well, yeah. People probably don't know who Scott is.
And Luke Cage, it all depends. If he goes by the Heroes of Empire storyline for his
Well,
show,
yeah.
then people will know who he is.
Well, I mean, we can conjecture down the line, but so far Daredevil is the only one.
Sure.
Which of course is why if they can't do line for line superhero registration act because it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Right. Which is regulation.
But so like if Daredevil showed up to the party, they either have to explain that they all know his secret identity and keep it, or he's the only one awkwardly in his costume or something. But I thought that was an
It's
interesting
really
idea.
comfortable. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, Iron Fist is just debatable because if he really is the CEO of the company, I'll know who he is, but they'll know he's Iron Fist.
Yeah.
Sure. Sorry.
That's all.
This might seem a bit far-fetched, but I would like to see a fantastic four movie. And this, I would like to, like them to not have Doctor Doom as the main villain, like someone else, like Silver Surfer or anything.
Jamal, man.
But they, I want
we,
to,
we had
Yes.
this discussion on Twitter.
so just like in the post-credit scenes, like reference to Doctor Doom, and he should be like the main villain of Phase 4 if they can do that.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool. Then of course Spider-Man 2, and I'd like to see another Black Panther movie.
Black Panther. Yep. No one mentioned that yet. Black Panther.
Oh, that'd be really cool.
Wakanda.
Well, I don't know the timing on that because that is it. When is Black Panther?
Black
Black
Panther
Panther
is
is getting pushed
2018.
back. I mean,
So
No, push forward.
oh, it's pushed forward.
Only Captain Marvel was pushed back, yeah.
It's only like a few months.
It's
But I
February 6, 2018
Okay.
Oh,
something
for
like
Black
that.
Panther.
So that would be a really quick
I mean,
turnaround.
it's up to
unless
you though.
the
Like,
third one.
it's your list. So if you want a Black Panther,
I mean, yeah,
Then
I mean-
real adult for
Yeah.
an entire year by the time that
Like you told me.
Spider-Man. Okay. Spider-Man's like a recurring theme. I'll get back to them, but let's.
Oh, it's my
Cassie,
turn
what's
now.
your list?
Okay. Obviously Black Widow, because like I know I'm like new to superheroes and Marvel and everything. Like I'm ankle deep right now, and I want to be drowning. I'm
We
sorry.
will put you down with
Yeah.
them.
That's okay. I will sink with all the ships.
We will hold your head
Don't
down.
resist.
We
Don't
will hold your
resist.
head down the water and choke you on your
The only thing to sink a good ship is cannon. Anyways, so I definitely think that like there's enough background to Black Widow, and I definitely think that'd be super cool. You said something about like teenage superheroes,
Avengers?
and like all I can think of is like these kids trying to go through college, because you know that's where we are, so it relates really well. Like trying to go through college, trying to pass college, and like deal with all this stuff, and be like, oh, oops, we're superheroes too. Go save the world or take a test. Let's decide. So I think that'd be hysterical. I don't know. I like anything that keeps me out of my own life for a little while. So movies are fun. And I think it'd be totally insane to see like the adventures of Rocket and Groot. Just them gallivanting around the countryside.
So before Guardians 3, like a team up game.
Yeah,
team-up
like
movie with-
just going around like, oh, we're gonna go visit Thor today.
With Howard though, right?
Yeah, obviously.
Yes.
Just go around,
Actually-
get into some random trouble over here. Be like, oh, we're in too much trouble here. Let's go over there, and like, oh, we're gonna go visit so and so now. I think that'd be really
That'd be
cool.
really
Yeah,
cool.
it should be TV series.
I'm
That,
not.
that would be
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Actually, on the Black Widow thing, it's like I mean, yeah, we got Black Widow's origin sort of clear with Age of Ultron,
But not really.
and if it connects to Hawkeye, so
Oh,
if her joining S.H.I.E.L.D. is connected to Hawkeye somehow, you're essentially you're pitching a Budapest movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
No,
yeah,
but yes.
I agree with that,
That
but
too. Can I?
shouldn't we?
Choices?
Yeah, but shouldn't we also? If we've gotten Black Widow's origin at this point, what's Hawkeye's origin?
They gave him a bow and said, go do stuff.
No, but the thing is, sorry, I'm going by like if they. Because they sort of updated his origin story in the comic books to match the movie, and it's may or may not work if you guys know what it is.
When you mentioned Budapest, I actually saw an image from the Civil War set. I don't know if it's real or not, but it had an image of like Black Widow and Hawkeye in like S.H.I.E.L.D. fatigues.
Oh,
I don't know if it's real. I
Yeah,
see it too.
yeah,
Like some people think it's a flashback to Budapest. That's gonna be in Civil War.
Just like
That's
all
kind of like
inspiration.
that's gonna kind of tie their like relationship together and kind of like emphasize the fact that they're fighting each other now, even though like, before they were fighting for each other. You know, so
Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
So I think that might like I feel like it's really hard to pitch a Hawkeye or Black Widow movie, but I think I think Marvel's starting to realize that these characters are people that we want to see. So I don't know.
Joss Whedon is sort of the sole reason I care about Hawkeye now. You
Yeah.
heard the BS behind Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it. We don't need to know that now.
Also, I want to jump back. This is not going to happen, but I wish they would bring Joss Whedon back just to film, just to direct the parties, to write and direct the party scenes for every Avengers
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, it's a shame what happened with him, but
To be fair, it's not like I don't want to say this, but it kind of felt like he knew what was going to happen in for Age of Ultron.
yeah. Well, especially when you're working something that big, it's like you
You
know,
only
like
do so much for so long before you just decide to
hang it up.
He could really could have made that movie at Empire Strikes Back while setting up the other films at once.
Exactly. One thing I saw a lot of people mention was the Spider-Man sequel, and I think a lot of people, I don't know if
Dan, you're walking back and forth. It's
sorry.
driving me nuts.
I don't know. Sorry. I don't know if you guys agree with me, but like especially after Infinity War, like I think one of the Marvel executives or directors or whatever mentioned that like Infinity War marks the end of the team that we know, right? And we like in some ways I think that's we're gonna get a definite change. So do you guys think that a Spider-Man sequel is necessary to kick off Phase 4? Because like is that gonna be the new face of Marvel? Because it's always been for the like you know Spider-Man's been the face until Iron Man came out and all that stuff. So do you guys think that like they have to have a Spider-Man sequel to like confirm that like new age, like everyone's gone, now they need something new?
So you're pitching like sort of how like Iron Man started and he was kind of the
Yeah.
face for Phase 1. Now it's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I don't think it needs to be someone nerd. There's so many different, like again, ankle deep compared to drowning. But like, there's all these different characters we've gone over, and like, I don't feel like it would have to be someone that we already know. Like, there are all these other ones that they're throwing in now, or that like they haven't even touched.
Well, actually, yeah. On that note, most of the Avengers weren't really known to the public until like we knew because we were Marvel fans, but the rest of the world really didn't.
So why pick someone they've already used this phase
Well,
instead
that's
of
the thing. It's like now we're kind of running out of the big guns. And
Yeah.
we're digging to the B list and the C list heroes now.
Well,
So
that's why
do
you
we need
pull
to?
them up and you dust them off and you stitch them in some cute new clothes and you're like, look, you're pretty again.
That's the whole thing. That's like people are thinking now. It's like, are the C list characters going to be the ones that are going to carry this whole thing through, or do we need a reboot? And I think Spider-Man is like the only wild card that we haven't been able to use in Phase 1 and Phase 2, which I think now can keep that train going. So I don't know if you guys want to weigh in on that or.
Well, Spider-Man. First of all, do we need Spider-Man to?
Well, it's not a question that we need it. I mean, like, we definitely need it.
I need a Spider-Man. I personally, it's important to
Yeah.
my well-being that we get more Spider-Man. But
Sorry, before we continue, yeah, Matt, Vincent, and Neil had this discussion about introducing Venom after Infinity War. You want to get in on that?
Remember?
okay, I essentially plotted the next 3 Spider-Man movies in my head. We don't have to get into that today if we don't want to. I don't know how far that rabbit hole goes. But if we get there, I'll tell you all about Venom. If we get there today, then we get there. But we don't have to because I could do an entire podcast about that myself.
So confident.
I'm just a huge Spider-Man fan. I think that whether we want Spider-Man to be the new face of the cinematic universe or not, that's how it's going to end up happening because he's just so popular. When you look at, the most well-known superheroes, it's Spider-Man, it's Superman, it's Batman. And that's really it. So now that they have Spider-Man, he's definitely going to be, whether intentionally or not, he's going to be the new face.
Yeah.
Feel someone's gonna die, like someone major is gonna die in Infinity War, and then I guess Spider-Man needs to step in.
Yeah.
I feel like whenever they kill someone, they're not really killing them. They're just sidelining them temporarily until they come up with a way for them to.
No, that's how it makes.
No one's dead. No one's actually dead. They're just frozen.
No, listen. No, listen. That's how it works. That's how it works in comics. That's the whole joke. Is that someone dies. No one dies. You know, even they brought back Bucky. They brought back Jason Todd over at
Uncle
DC.
Ben.
Within the same.
The only person
within the same month.
They can come back.
Yeah, the only people.
Continuity.
Yeah.
They'll never come back.
It's
Actually, sorry.
But I mean, yeah, Uncle Ben and Bruce's parents and stuff like that. Kind of Gwen Stacy, but kind of not now. But I think, but the thing is, that's not the way it works in movies because actors get older and their contracts end, and if they don't end, Marvel doesn't want to pay them $1 billion, and so when Steve Rogers dies, when they kill Steve Rogers, and it's Chris Evans playing him, then Steve Rogers is dead. Like I mean, if they really work the contract, I mean, yeah, they could have Chris Evans come back, but I mean, like for the most part in the MCU, if they kill a character, of course there are actually contradictions to this because of Phil Coulson and everything, but if they kill a character, or at least more so than the comics, they are dead, and so they either stay dead or they reboot. That's basically how it works.
Actually, what Street Flyer just said actually wasn't pretty good. We remember our discussion, Matt, about how they shouldn't do Green Goblin because we've seen him too many times.
Well, not immediately, but
Sure. Yeah. In that regard, we basically just saw Gwen die, right? In Amazing Spider-Man 2. So in the reboot, if she doesn't die, could she become Spider-Man? Cinematic?
They're not. No, I can't see them doing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Ever. But
it'd be cool.
No, but
It
that
would be cool.
I think that actually brings up a good point is whether they're going to use Gwen or MJ or someone else
Benny
for
Brand,
for the reboot because
Carly Cooper, no.
because I feel like they can't do Gwen because Gwen just died in the last movie.
Right.
Even though realistically audiences should know it's a reboot, but it's going to confuse audiences. It's going to confuse audiences, and it's just going to.
I mean,
they don't.
I watch people die.
I mean,
Hold on a second.
Right.
It's high school, so regardless of who you use as the primary love interest, I feel like it should be still important to show all of them, including Flash, Flash, Harry, Liz, Sally, April, whoever.
Yeah, we got Liz too.
Yeah, I don't think they can do Gwen. At least while he's still in high school.
Ideally, I would want everyone. Sorry.
Yes.
Let's just take the comics and
All the
put them
ships.
on the big screen.
You know what? If they could ever do that, I would love it. I would freaking go watch it.
But that's too much. I guess it'll be Mary Jane, right?
All right, so let me just bring it back. Let me just bring it back to. All right, so let me just bring it back to what we were talking about. So I mentioned Spider-Man stuff. Another thing that came up too, which personally I think, because another thing that we look at with Phase 4, at least for me, is like who we're gonna lead up to fighting again. Because Thanos is probably gonna be dead after Phase 3, so we need someone to build up to like we did for the first 3 phases. And I think that's what's gonna drive the storytelling in these next 3 phases. So and I think you two guys mentioned Fantastic Four, which has Doctor Doom, Galactus, Silver Surfer, like probably one of the biggest, one of the best few villains that Marvel has besides Thanos, and that's obviously bigger and better than them. Do you guys want to talk a little bit more about Fantastic Four? What you think? Like, how does that? If hypothetically, if we do get the rights back for Fantastic Four, how do you see that working with the rest of what we already have established? Because they're not getting sequels; they're really fresh off the boat. Like they haven't interacted with anyone yet. So, what do you guys think about that?
Personally, I feel if they put Fantastic Four in the universe, it will become a bit dog. I guess too many superheroes now. Yeah. But if they can try to get Doctor Doom, and I mean, they need researchers like for his backstory. Yes, he will be like the really good for it. That's
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole thing. Like I feel like that's what's missing with. But like Spider-Man has a lot of enemies, but it just seems like after Thanos, nothing can be as big as him.
I was gonna say, like, if they're not tied to the Fantastic Four, you could do Annihilation.
Annihilate is up by Fox.
Yeah, it's fun. That's
Nihilus is fantastic.
Yeah, that's one.
So, I mean, really, the only people who can compare to Thanos and Ultron is Nihilus, who's FF, Doom is FF, Galactus is FF. They can't do Apocalypse, obviously. That's X-Men. They can't do any X-Men stuff. So really, I don't know, I'll just name them off and we can go into them. Is Kang, Yoonhyuk K,
Norman Osborn.
Yeah,
Norman Osborn.
well, yeah, they can do Kang and Norman.
Right.
The Dark
Yeah.
Knight.
That's actually or Illuminati.
Yeah, cue all the
That's
Kang.
Kang
Yeah,
the
we're-
Conqueror.
Illuminati jokes, right?
Kang the Conqueror is a time traveler who we can travel through time and what's it?
So his whole idea is that he can travel through time, and he's Kang the Conqueror. He conquers. He just wants to prove to everyone that
So he's just
He-
secure.
he wants to prove that
Yes,
he has
okay.
a superiority complex. He wants to prove that he's better than everyone. So he travels through time. He gets the best warriors. He gets the best weapons across all time and space. And he says, "Oh, the Avengers here. They think they're hot shit. I'm gonna get my space weapons, my space warriors, and I'm gonna go to war with them."
Okay.
Right. And then Norman Osborn, you know Norman Osborn? Green Goblin.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
There's one I recognize.
So
So
he's
Oh.
yes. So he's a madman, businessman.
Okay.
Marvel's Lex Luthor, kind of.
Oh, okay.
Kind of. I don't think Phase 4 needs a big bad. Phase 1 didn't have one.
Well, he was
He was
built up.
No,
to
that I actually like that where it's like each next. It's like down phase, up phase, down phase, up phase.
Right. So I don't think it needs one. Yeah, exactly. There you go. I personally would want Norman Osborn, big surprise. But isn't really needed.
Actually, speaking of the villains, yeah, I think this is one problem. Like, I think it's with the cinematic universe. Villains, like, make sure they survive more than one villain. I feel like the lack of villains right now is because most of them are dead.
Some of them I felt should have died in the films. Because, like Ultron, I feel like should not have died. I feel like he could have definitely hung around and been like a lieutenant for.
Because
On the other hand, no one gives a shit about Malekith.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Or Ronan. Like those ones. Those are like people you can throw in the trash. But
Well, no,
I was gonna say
Copy and paste.
Right. Yeah, just like if they or like Iron Man Obadiah is dead, but if they do an Iron Man 4, I say try to do Extremis right and bring in Ezekiel.
or bring back the real man, the one that's still out
Yeah.
there.
I only said Ezekiel because he's more directly linked to
Well,
Extremis.
yes. Well, Mandarin would be a great Iron Man 4 film. But as far as Avengers, like big bads, I was actually thinking because you said we were talking about one is down, one is up phases. Yeah, they could introduce Norman as a background character in Spider-Man 1, and then they could build him up like kind of still as a background character in Spider-Man 2,
Right.
and then they, which is basically what they did with Thanos.
Yeah.
It's like here he is as a post-credits cameo in like 3 movies. And then he's going to show up like 10 years later as the actual villain. So they could basically do that with Norman again. And he could be the end of like 4 or something. And then you bring in Kang and everything.
So like here's this creepy side character that we're just gonna
Yeah.
hint at that he's a thing. Let's go fight these other guys.
Actually,
Oh look, he's scary and bad now.
there's speaking of gangs, there is a theory that we saw them sort of in Guardians of the Galaxy. You guys remember? No. Remember that small like vision thing with the Power Stone, like Collector was going on about like before this question.
Before they all get left.
One of those screens like showed this blue guy like going insane from the power. People are saying that's Kane somehow. Like this is right after.
That sounds like a spread.
Yeah, it
Well,
probably is, but I feel like
But
this I
I feel like some of those stretches end up being really, really true. And they end up,
Potentially,
they
sure.
take those stretches that they're like, oh, see this like half a second of scene you saw. Oh, this is actually really happening now.
Well, I think
So I feel like we really can't have any idea what's going to happen, which is great because keeping us guessing is a wonderful thing because we can come up with all this other stuff on our own still in the meantime and have so much fun with it and just keep rolling with it. And then they'll be like, oh no, you were all wrong. We're going to do this instead. And it's like, oh, let's have fun on this.
Oh, and another thing about villains for Ant-Man and the Wasp. Their villain would I personally think it's either going to be Egghead or Eric O'Grady in Ant-Man.
I don't know anything about Ant-Man because they don't really make any Ant-Man comics.
Well, they also saw that whole thing where that guy Donovan got away with the yellow jacket serum at the end of Ant-Man. So they might, Hydra against. I think that's supposed to fly.
I don't know. I didn't know he had a name. I thought just like Hydra 15 or whatever.
No, I think he's like a Hydra agent.
Mitch Carson.
Oh, okay. I think the actor's name. No. I think Carson, right?
Yeah, Eric. Eric.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking, Eric came up in my mind the other day, and I can't remember why, because like I thought of something. Eric O'Grady. Okay, so Eric O'Grady, Hank Pym was tasked to build another Ant-Man suit for S.H.I.E.L.D. and this like the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent who's just a total scumbag steals it. And then eventually becomes a good guy and then dies.
Well, the thing about it is that that all happened. But when he died the first time, I think he came back somehow as a villain called Red Ant. So I feel like if they could switch, it happens in Secret Invasion. So if they could switch that, I feel like he could be. So I feel like if they could switch that up, that'd be a good way to introduce like maybe Hydra finds a way to actually use the particles that Carson had instead of trying to steal them to protect. Or because I feel like Egghead just steals them to Egghead, for those who don't know, is quite clearly a scientist with an engine. And that's not
Wow,
that'll be
really good description.
I mean, I don't think-
They could just make like a code name or something.
Yeah.
Like our lives.
So another thing I guess to bring it back to. So we talked about Fantastic Four, we talked about Spider-Man. I like the tangents though. The tangents are nice, but I kind of want to get back to what we were talking about with Phase 4. Which is so far away. I know it really isn't. Another thing too that came up a lot was like introducing Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan.
Yeah.
3 minutes.
We're at 33 minutes.
We're wrapping this up soon. But okay, so speed round.
I'm not ready for this. I didn't prepare.
So basically, just give me brief thoughts on like Kamala Khan. Do we need it, or
What?
Need anything.
Okay.
Part of this is that I think maybe possibly that happened.
I have no idea.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Something we brought up is the whole thing with like S.H.I.E.L.D. not being around anymore. In these movies, are we gonna see like S.H.I.E.L.D. being built up again? Like, are we finally gonna see it come back, or is it gonna still just be superheroes from now on? Because like,
Coulson being furious.
well, like actually in the movies, like, are we gonna see a S.H.I.E.L.D. a structure centered around bring all these superheroes back together, or is it still gonna be just like everybody off and around? Because I think that's something that's like
They almost have to come up with something, because like, all these different movies and all of them, like, they talk about each other, or they don't talk about each other, they subtly hint about each other. They almost have to have something to bring them all together and be like, oh look, we all recognize there are other people. Like, my drove me nuts, it was hysterical. In Ant-Man, when they talk about the Netflix series, they're like talking about, oh my gosh, there's this massive vigilante going around, we can't believe it. And they talk about the incident, or however they call it, had just gone on, and they just saw the superheroes, and they just saw the whole thing go down with, everything happening in New York, and they're like, oh my gosh, we can't believe it, a vigilante dressed in a mask. So like, I feel like they almost have to tie things together with some group.
Well, Dan, I think to answer your question, honestly, we're going to see it in Civil War, possibly. Because we've established over and over again that they can't directly adapt Civil War because of the Superhuman Registration Act and all that. But my guess is that they're still going to possibly have a Superhero Registration Act-like thing that's going to set it off. And I'm guessing that's where they're pulling General Ross back in and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so it'll be during Civil War and slightly after, whether or not Iron Man wins or whether or not he's in charge of it. It'll be it'll be the slightly shady S.H.I.E.L.D.
but not what it was.
Yeah, and like during Civil War, it might be headed by Ross, and then Iron Man will maybe headed for a while.
When use
if
the word
they
shake.
kill Cap.
Well, when you say that, Vince, do you also mean like finals or competition?
Well, I don't. Maybe it doesn't. I don't think they can do that because they don't have enough characters. So after Civil War in the comics, they had this thing called the Initiative. Iron Man because Iron Man wins the Civil War in the comics.
Yeah.
Steve dies. Spoilers.
Dies.
It was on the cover of the New York Times. It was reported on by mainstream media. You know, they only care about comics when Captain America dies. It's literally
America.
Yeah. And so Iron Man takes over S.H.I.E.L.D. at the end, and he sets up the Initiative, which is every state has their own superhero team, and there's like official like superhero training camps for teenage heroes, and people are not familiar with it, and they just can't do that because they don't have enough characters. And the only they could actually do that if they saved it all the way after Inhumans, because if they do something like Terrigen Mist go off, and suddenly there's Inhumans everywhere.
happening, yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but apparently that's basically what is happening there. So but it would still be a lot of work to adapt the post Civil War. So, and then they could eventually just go back to one of our other topics. They would eventually bring in Norman. They want to do Secret Invasion, and then actually continuing with this Norman tangent that I just set myself on is with Loki and with Ultron and even a lot of the solo villains. The big complaint is Ultron and Loki, they're exactly the same. There's this big bad, but then the final battle is the Avengers just fighting like these nameless, faceless robots, or the Chitauri and stuff like that. If they slowly build up to Norman, they could do a Dark Avengers thing, and they could build up where
But that's another thing. If you're gonna do that, the other solo villains have to not die.
Well, yeah.
Exactly. Sure.
I mean,
They didn't really die in the first place.
Pretty sure Ultron's not dead. It might be like, oh wait, one of the drones got away.
Oh, darn it.
Or maybe Red Skull's alive somewhere.
See. All right. Well, from Penn State, this is the Students of S.H.I.E.L.D. Sign out. We'll see you next week for another podcast. Bye.
that's how they sell the
Do we have rights for those schools?
Wow. No, we don't. That's the
Yeah, but that also
That's why
ties
they-
into
that's why the Chitauri were called Chitauri. And
4
they
years
weren't
later,
called
that's-
Skrulls.
They do an entire Jessica Jones solo film. Everyone likes her, and they're like, "Wow, I'm really invested in this character." And then it reveals that she's the Queen of the Skrulls.
That would either be really cool or that suck.
I mean, that's literally
What?
what they're an alien race. Yeah.
Go, Cassie.
No. They can use Carnage because they have.